funny. All right, John, let's shift gears. The Texans start training camp this week. We'll get into some of the final questions that we have before training camp, but I guess the big news Texans-wise over the weekend, they announced their 7 assistant coaches that are going to coach during training camp on the Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship program, one of whom is former Texans great Johnathan Joseph, multi-time Pro Bowler, greatest free agency signing in the history of the team, still makes his home here in Houston. And he is going to be one of the assistant coaches that are part of this fellowship program. I guess, John, just for the benefit of people who are unfamiliar with the program, give like the 30-second thumbnail sketch as to what exactly this is that Johnathan Joseph and a handful of other assistant coaches from various walks of life, high school coaches, college position coaches, et cetera, are going to be taking part in here.
This has been going on for years in the NFL. One year, the Texans had Billy White Shoes Johnson as their minority coach. It wasn't Bill Walsh then. And Billy came in and worked with the returners as well as the receivers. And that was really cool. And so having J. Joe back, I thought when he played that he should go immediately to either their coaching staff, player relations, something with this team, because he's one of the all-time great guys. And I think he'd be a terrific coach. And I don't know if he wants to do it full time. This is probably going to give him a taste of coaching. And I think it's tremendous.
So I agree with you, and I think Johnathan Joseph would be great. I tweeted over the weekend that, John, I hearkened back to 2011 when Johnathan Joseph got to Houston, and Kareem Jackson was coming off just an abysmal rookie year at cornerback for the Texans. And Kareem was like a different guy, not just in 2011, but for the rest of his career, most of which was played alongside Johnathan Joseph. They were the fixtures at cornerback for this team for so many years. I tweeted about that, hoping that he would have a similar effect on Derek Stingley in the short time he's going to spend with him during this preseason. J.J. Watt actually replied to the tweet and said, one of the smartest players I've ever played with and one of the best teachers, mentors for young guys. This is going to be extremely beneficial for the young DBs and the entire squad. J.J. is the real deal. That's J.J. Watt saying that. John, what do you expect this? What kind of effect do you think Johnathan Joseph can have on a full training camp working with Derek Stingley Jr.?
D'Amico's last year with the Texans was J.J.'s first year as a free agent, so they know each other. And the key is, does Johnathan want to dive in and do coaching full time? He's been off now 2 or 3 years. He's been an ambassador with the Texans. He's been around. They have so many coaches. They got coordinators, position coaches, assistant position coaches. But I think as much as they will allow him to do, he'll do it. And you mentioned Derek Stingley Jr., that would be the player I would target. What he can learn in a short period of time from J. Joe, if he listens and wants to, will be immeasurable.
Yeah, I would. I mean, like the selfish Texan fan in me says, make J. Joe Derek Stingley's private coach. You know what I mean? Attach him at the hip to Sting. Stingley means more than any other cornerback on this team, than every other cornerback on this team combined, given what they invested in him in terms of draft capital. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, the one thing they won't be doing is having a salad together, because J. Joe's never had a salad.
He's a junk food junkie. Cecil Shorts was the first one to tell me that the one thing, the one thing we can't have Johnathan imparting upon these rookies is his wisdom from a dietary standpoint. He's like you and me, pre-soda weight loss, John. He loves that fast food and he loves those sweets. It's from what everybody says. And yet the guy hangs – John, you know what Johnathan Joseph is? The guy hangs around the league for what, 15 years, 16 years? I think he came in 2006. He's taken 9 picks ahead of D'Amico. That's kind of funny when you think about it now. And then I think 2020 was his last season in the league. He's like one of those guys, John, and again, for those who don't know, Johnathan Joseph reported a great player for a decade and a half, used to eat junk food constantly all the time. He's like one of those people that you see like these articles like 101-year-old man in Colorado Springs attributes his 5th of whiskey he drinks every day to living so long. Right? I guess J. Joe. That's unbelievable. All right. So we're both thumbs up on Johnathan Joseph in this role, and I think in life. Johnathan Joseph's one great dude, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So, John, as we maybe shift a little more over to training camp in general, you and I have talked plenty about camp in the last few pods here, but we've got just 48 hours to go. Are there any final things, like as we get closer, as we're just maybe a day or two away Like, as you think about walking into camp that day, like I always talk about the position groups and compare it to Disneyland. Like, which ride are we going to go on first here? Who are we watching? Like, what position group are you most excited, other than quarterback? Which position group are you most excited to watch?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have a column on sportsradio610.com later today about 5 veterans who are under the most pressure to produce the way they're capable. And I'm starting with Derek Stingley Jr., who we just mentioned, and then Kenyon Green. You know, Robert Woods is under a lot of pressure, a veteran's receiver, to be healthy and step up and play the way he did when he played for the Rams before he blew out his knee. And with so many new players, I'm going to watch the secondary for Petrie, but also Stingley. Linebackers, I don't have as much interest in. Toa, he interests me because he's a rookie. And once you and Seth got Nick Caserio to bring him up out of the blue, that showed me how impressed Nick was, because Nick never brings up rookies. Getting the log jam out of the defensive line where they have it edge rushers and interior, watching Will Anderson Jr., who may be I'm not saying he's going to be better than Clowney and Mario Williams, who were the top overall picks, but he was higher rated than Mario Williams. And of course, Clowney was highest rated, a generation type player, but he was never a great pass rusher, even in college. Will Anderson Jr. is a great pass rusher. Offensive line, not really. I'll watch Kenyon Green and see how Juice Scruggs takes a little time to get up there. Tight ends, we know Dalton Schultz can catch. The wide receivers, yes. Seeing how that sorts out with so many candidates. And I can't wait to watch Tank Dell. And more important, Sean, I can't wait to talk to him, because we haven't been able to talk to Tank since the day he was drafted.
Yep. John, you hit a bunch of the ones I had here just as I was kind of chicken scratching my list together before camp. Health of Kenyon Green. It's not just Kenyon Green, the player. It's Kenyon Green, like the human being. Is he healthy, physically healthy? Because he had knee surgery back in March, at least a procedure on his knee. It wasn't reconstructive or anything. It was a scope, but still. So, yeah, Kenyon Green. I had Kenyon Green. Does the new bulked up Stingley mean a more durable Stingley? I don't think we'll find that out until the season, but how does Stingley look for sure? The wide receiver 3 spot, because I think Robert Woods and Nico Collins are the top 2 right now, because all the other guys are basically rookies. You know, I know Noah Brown is in the mix. He feels like more of kind of that back end of the depth chart journeyman type guy. I feel like Nico and Robert Woods, like they were to line up in a 2 wide receiver set tomorrow in a game, I feel like Robert Woods would be on one side, Nico Collins would be on the other. Who of this young group of John Mechie, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, who potentially takes that wide, or any of them, maybe it's none of the above, takes that wide receiver 3 spot. So that's one for me. Free agents in general, the not the undrafted ones, but like the Dalton Schultzes and the Singletaries and the Robert Woodses of the world, and then a bunch on the defensive side, Jimmy Ward, guys like that. Which free agents jump off the page and feel like, okay, this feels different? They signed so many journeymen the last few years that were just hanging on in the league. Not like they signed a bunch of Pro Bowlers, but they signed a bunch of guys who could be contributors on good teams around the league. Do those guys jump off the page? And the last thing for me, John, and I just jotted this down as you and I were talking at the beginning here, but I'll be anxious to see if this excitement that you and I at least hypothesize is out there. It feels palpable because you and I see it on social media, around town. We talk to people and things like that. That's the world we live in, though. We live in a constant world of interaction with people who would naturally be excited. Does that excitement that you and I are feeling from the people we interact with on a daily basis, does that translate into, wow, the stands are full again out at these practices? Wow, everybody's excited. Not just people who read your columns or listen to my show, but the average fan in Houston that just likes football when it's good. Are they buying in on this sort of thing? I'm really anxious to see if that buzz that you and I are feeling translates to what we feel out there when we're out there on Wednesday morning.
I'll go back